Good evening, everyone. Record crowd today. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting of the Committee of the Whole meeting for the City of Bloomington to order. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Walsh.
Here.
Councilmember Bolin.
Here.
Councilmember Motney.
Here.
Councilmember Becker.
Here.
Councilmember Urban.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Councilmember Crable.
Here.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Here.
Mayor Millawample.
Here. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We did not receive any emailed public comment, but we do have one person registered to speak in person, and that is Lorraine Rice.
Okay, sounds good. And if Ms. Rice, if you could make your way up to the podium while I read my statement, and hopefully I can read it by the, oh, okay, sorry. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read a statement first before you do your public comment, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Public
evening.
comment is an opportunity for speakers to provide their views and feedback to the city council. It is also an opportunity for the city council to listen and hear diverse points of view. To maximize the impact of public comment and show respect for the expression of all views, speakers should maintain civility and focus on city issues. Speakers must identify themselves for the record, but are not required to give their address. Each speaker is given the floor for 3 minutes and the council does not respond or engage in debate. Any speaker that engages in threatening or disorderly behavior will be deemed out of order and their time seized. Okay, thank you. You may go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, friends, neighbors. I was born in Bloomington. Well, it was back when we had the old St. Joseph Hospital. My name is Lorraine Rice. I'd like to talk to you again about the problem that we have with water bills in this town. As you recall, the last time I mentioned to you that landlords, including me, are having problems dealing with properties and water bills. What happens is when tenant moves out, oh, no, he doesn't have to pay rent last year. So that he doesn't pay the water bill or anything else either. When he moves out, the water company sends me the water bill. Now, Thomas Jefferson said this couldn't possibly happen. He said it absolutely could not happen. Anyway, there's something that I wish you could accomplish for me. We need to have some compromise with the water department. If nothing else, when the water bill is a couple of months old, shut it off. I had my water shut off. I had to leave town when I had a sickness in the family. And when I came back, my water was shut off after only 2 months. Now, why can't they do that with the tenants? Why? I don't know. What we need to do is get an agreement with the water company that if the water bill is up to 2 months and they haven't paid, shut it off. That'll get their attention. No water. So I'd like it if you notify the landlord too, so that the landlord knows the water has been shut off. This is especially important to me where there's a family that has 1, 2, or 3 little kids living right there with no water. The simplicity of just shutting it off would keep the bill from getting into an astronomical amount. Pardon me. I know that you think that a couple of months would be $100 or $200. I right now owe $27,000 of water bills in this town. Do you see why I'm so interested? If you would fix it, even better yet, that the water bill goes with the tenant. It's his bill, not mine. What's happening is some landlords are being forced to shut down their property, and there's nothing they can do about it. So if there's any way that you can get the water department to agree to that, that would be great. Also remember, I want some help with the past bills. Thank you for listening. I appreciate your help if there's any way that you can help us.
Thank you.
There was no further public comment.
Okay, thank you. And we're now going to move on to the regular agenda. And this concerns there should be a council, oops, sorry, not quite yet. I'm just in a hurry here, seems like. We're not moving to the regular agenda, we're moving to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Okay, motion by Councilmember Ward.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Bolin. Are we using a link or just,
I'll just call it if that's okay.
okay?
Councilmember Walsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolin,
Yes.
Councilmember Motney,
Yes.
Councilmember Becker,
Yes.
Councilmember Urban,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Crable,
Yes.
Councilmember Crumpler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The consent agenda passes. Now on to the regular agenda. Now, at some point, I know we have a city manager Gleason who's going to chime in. Are we doing video, still just voice, audio? Just audio?
Just audio.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So item 5A on the regular agenda is a council discussion on the September 9th and 10th, 2022 strategic planning retreat final report as prepared by Strategic Government Resources and as requested by the city council. Thank you. I did kind of, put together this little PowerPoint just for fun. I don't get to do that often. But we're going to go through it fairly quickly. Just to kind of, and I think it's also for the benefit of the audience and people who, the huge crowds that are watching on on YouTube. So this is a report. Do I need to say next slide? Okay. This is a report that was put together by Strategic Government Resources, submitted to us on September 19th, 2022. As you know, we had a council retreat September 9th and 10th. And for the purpose of establishing a strategic plan for the future of the city. The mayor, council were all in attendance, except for Councilmember Grant Walsh, who couldn't be with us because of a work commitment. And the city manager and department heads also attended. So this report is a summary of what was discussed and the strategic priorities that were the council established. We, as a group, we came up with, next slide, came up with some reputational drivers. Essentially, what that amounts to is what do we want to be known for? And we agreed upon safety was important to us, infrastructure, want to be known as a place that is a city that is affordable, also flourishing and forward thinking, and where we deliver basic services with excellence. Next slide. We also came up with some strategic priorities, 6 key strategic priorities, which is improve infrastructure, revitalizing older communities, emphasize economic development, promote housing diversity, improve efficiency and service delivery, and also enhance public safety and well-being. Very similar to what we've had before, but I think it's in, within those items, there's some differences. So then we came up as a group with some milestones. Next slide. Under each of these 6 strategic priorities. And I'm not going to go over and read all of those. I know it can seem a little bit overwhelming, but just wanted to give everyone a quick visual of what those milestones are. So, so I think next steps, next slide, for us is to, kind of gather some input today. Hopefully, we do not get into too much wordsmithing because it took us a day and a half, to come up with that. But, just interested in hearing from council feedback, and if there's a need to, there's always an option to go back to strategic government resources, for clarification, if need be. And eventually, the idea behind this is to formally adopt this at a council meeting, and then for the staff to develop an implementation plan that would be workable. And at that point, we'll also ask City Manager Gleason to weigh in on what the staff is able to do, and what sort of timeline we could be looking at. So I think that's all I have now. So I'm gonna open it up to council members to provide some feedback and ideas. Councilmember Crumpler.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of brief comments. I think the report is straightforward and captures the results of our discussions from the 2-day retreat. I think obviously each of these 6 strategic priorities and its accompanying milestones they're all potentially multi-year endeavors. These are all big. For me, the obvious challenges are how do we move forward and how do we measure success? The numbers, 1 through 6 suggest a hierarchy, but do we focus on all of them with equal urgency simultaneously, or 2 or 3 at a time? And then significantly, how do we develop clear benchmarks that allow us to measure progress? Progress as we're moving through, the priorities and milestones, and then also outcomes. And I think it's going to be really important that we show the community, if this is our strategic plan, how we are being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
That was good. Councilmember Bolton.
I have a whole diatribe. No, I'm kidding. Well, first of all, everybody wants to have a safe community with neighborhoods to be proud of, a community where everyone belongs. And the strategic goals should reflect those, and I think they do. What I found to be noteworthy was that the current strategic goals are very similar to what we came up with at this retreat. Financially sound city, providing quality basic services, upgrade infrastructure facilities, grow the local economy, strong neighborhoods, great place, livable, sustainable city, and prosperous downtown. Those are our current strategic goals. Some of the things I went through list by list. We have plans for many of our improving infrastructure and facilities. So I would like to see those plans implemented as far as referencing to what Alderman Crumpler said. if we start implementing the plans, it will show the results that we're looking for. And then with the revitalization of the older neighborhoods, actually infill was mentioned both in number 4 and number 2. I don't know if it should be combined or just stated as a duplication. And with the economic, let's see, emphasizing economic development, where it says encourage and promote workforce development, that would have to be, in my mind, that would be the role of the private sector. We as a council or as a city could possibly work together with the private sector and have conversations with them, but ultimately it would be, in my opinion, up to the private sector to encourage the workforce development and training opportunities. Housing diversity. Let's see what I have to downtown house options and a range of quality rentals. That too is also referenced in more number 2, I believe. And let's see. Okay, enhance public safety and well-being. The well-being component, yes, is part of the city's responsibility to a point, but I think that partnering with the county is the one that would be ultimately responsible for the well-being, and the city is providing tax dollars for the mental health services in the city. So partnering with them should continue. The nonprofits, actually, most of the city's nonprofits sit on the Behavioral Health Coordinating Council. So we are already partnering with them, which I think should continue. Let's see. And this is just a gut response to the reduction of violence. That implies to me that we have an abundance of violence, and I would prefer to have this phrase be more affirmative, stated in the positive, if possible, instead of reduction of violence. I don't know how that can be stated, but I just, yeah, that's just my comments.
Okay, thank you. I'll go with Councilmember Motley and then Councilmember Ward.
Just one comment for me. I think on number 5, improved efficiency in service delivery. I don't know that the word efficiency captures kind of the whole spirit of improving the excellence and effectiveness with which we deliver services to our residents. So maybe if you just added the word improve efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery, that would help. Otherwise, the potential is pursuing efficiency without it being about quality could drive unintended behaviors that would adversely impact the services that we provide to the community.
Okay, so good. Thank you. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate this report. I think it nicely summarizes the work that we did over the course of a day and a half. And I appreciate having all of the points in front of us and in front of the public as well. One thing that I would like to request is that this be an ongoing dialogue. I understand that this the retreat that we had and this report reflects the idea that it's the council's job to talk about what we want to achieve, and it's city staff's job to come back with how we achieve it. But I don't think that that can just be a one-off kind of conversation. I think that needs to be an ongoing conversation. And over the course of that day and a half, it was quite apparent that every member of the council has different areas in these various buckets that they're more or less passionate about and have an interest in and some knowledge in. And I would really appreciate it if city staff would reach out to us as council members on those various topics that we do have an interest in and that we've expressed an interest in, to get a sense of the nuancing behind the topic, rather than it simply being a guessing game and a one-off kind of thing. I also just wanted to comment, Councilwoman Bolin talked about our community not having as much of a problem with violence as perhaps this phrase would imply. I was at a presentation of some research that's fairly cutting edge on Friday at Illinois Wesleyan University. And there is more than a decade, if not close to a decade and a half of difference in life expectancy for people who live on the east side, northeast side, of the- compared to those in census tracts on the west side of Bloomington. Those disparities, those differences in life expectancy are directly linked to increases in amount of violence that people experience. The data are out there. They're for the looking at. And so I don't think we can continue to fool ourselves that violence is not an issue in our community.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to be real brief here, and with these 6 points and these 6 things, and I think that's something that we need to be conscious of are just a couple things. We have laid out 6 strategic plans, 6 strategic items. What does the community think of these 6 strategic items? Yes, we're the elected, but they're our bosses. What do our employers think of these 6 items, and how would they rank them? I think that'd be something important to figure out, find out. You know, where would they rank? Where does the community rank these? The other thing is, and I've heard a couple comments about the fact that these are very similar to, if not the same, as strategic plan in the past. And I'm going to pile on and say, and the strategic plan in the past, and in the past, and in the past. And one thing that I have heard consistently, besides roads, the city comes up with these plans, or politicians come up with these plans, and they come up with plans, and they come up with plans. And that seems to be all we do. We need to make sure that we are pushing forward, and maybe that means, and while we talk about some of these things being, you know, years and years, and they may be a multi-year things, I think we need to identify some things in this plan that we can make happen right away. What can we make happen in the next 6 months? What can we make happen in the next 12 months? Let's push forward and let's show progress for the citizens. So we aren't sitting back here a year from now and going, hey, we have a plan. We didn't do anything with the last time plan. But we, you know, we can continue to push forward, and we need to show that we do these plans and we actually implement them. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other lights. So want to give City Manager Gleason. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Bolin.
Ward?
I say
Yep,
Bolin,
sorry.
right?
Well, I thought maybe she was good. I don't disagree with what Alderman Ward is saying, but I would prefer to use maybe the word address violence. I know that it sounds like wordsmithing, but I think that also the life expectancy in lower economic neighborhoods is also a combination of availability of nutritious food and numerous other items. It's just a gut reaction for me. Address violence in the community, whether it's gun, knife, vehicular, that which is, I feel kind of strongly about that.
Thank you. Okay, I think I wanted to hear from Tim, Mr. Gleason, if maybe if you can talk about how the staff would take something like this and put together a working plan as was suggested in the report.
Hey, Mayor and Council, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Maybe a thumbs up. All right, I can see that. First, I apologize for not being there. Caught a head cold and felt it best, well, I don't feel too bad, felt it best to just stay at home, and then having some video problems, so I'm audio only. I guess a couple of comments that I had prepared. Mayor, you had prepped me for this and shared what the ask was going to be of staff. And it's not a new ask in terms of being responsive to what the elected bodies, past and present, have wanted and what council has done. I mean, you need to look no further than the year-end reports, the accomplishment reports that we deliver to the community every single year. And I think it's quite impressive. When we look at the council's vision, which is very much something that I seek so that I'm in alignment with ideally everyone, but at the very least, a majority of the council. These outcomes from the SGR retreat, along with the goals that have been identified in my performance evaluation, are areas that we're already working on. But the key difference here is this kind of conversation and report provides the clarity that I'm looking for so that I can fine tune those deliverables that myself and staff provide the elected and the community. So I think I completely understand what council is asking. The work plan that I will provide to council, I think it was Alderman Crumpler was talking about how a lot of these are longer term, but even in the longer term type of items, I can show where the progress is and will continue to do that. But very much appreciate having for the first time the opportunity to go into a retreat. I know that I've said this to the community, but it's worth reminding. You know, this was the third attempt of doing this. The first two times were canceled or postponed because of COVID. And this was the type of setting that needed at least the first time, and this was the first time, to be done in person. And I feel that it was very successful, and I feel that it was very clear what council was saying to me and my staff. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Now, Tim, not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious about what this looks like in terms of putting together this working plan. How long do you think it would take to deliver?
Actually, Mayor, I'm already ready for this. You know, there's a couple of things where, you know, the past 2 years, and it's not without progress, it's not without seizing opportunities, but to be quite honest, we were in crisis mode, you know, recovering from a disaster. You know, even though it was COVID, a pandemic, it really was a crisis, you know, that we were operating in and trying to provide the bare minimum services. We did far better than that for this community from start to finish. And now I'm anxious to get back to what my original plan was a little bit more than 4 years ago. So there's a couple of areas that I felt it appropriate to pause, and it's areas of process, it's areas of communication with the elected officials, but felt that it should be a result or an outcome of what we're hearing tonight. So I assumed, but I did not want to assume. So this week, council will receive a city manager update with a couple of things that are going to be implemented immediately. And then we'll continue checking the boxes on the other items.
That's good. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Crumpler.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification. So will we formally vote on this?
Yes, we will. So we will bring that forward to at a later council meeting. You know, I mean, I take note of some of the suggestions that have been made. And I don't want to tinker with this too much, because once you start wordsmithing too much, then you start to get into trouble. So, but I do take note of those, and we'll see how we can make that work and bring that forward for a council meeting or formal vote. Okay. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which I believe is city manager's discussion.
Can you hear me okay, Mayor?
Yes.
And then just a quick going backwards, and I apologize that I'm not sitting right next to you. But you asked a question of me, when will this report be delivered back to council? And I think it's something that I can accomplish by year end. I don't want to promise November, but we have 2 council meetings, no committee of the whole in December. And I think this is a deliverable before year end to answer your question. And I think Alderman Crumpler's follow-up.
Thank you.
And then I've got 3 slides. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to see them, but Mateus, if you would, do the first 2, and then I know number 3 is the new employees. I typically like to read who they are, but I may not be able to tonight. And I am not seeing anything on my end. So if you're at slide 1, Mateus, please go to slide 2. And if you would, slide 3, and I believe this should be the new employees that joined the city in the past month or so. And if I recall, quite the number this time, and very impressed with our recruitment efforts. And that'll do it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I guess we are at the point of adjournment.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Bolden. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Becker. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. We'll